Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning to some. Welcome to this week's Unconventional Wisdom on Grief and Loss. This is week 13, session 13. That is pretty incredible that it's been 13 weeks already. Wow, my goodness. My name is Delilah De La Rosa. I am host of this and the subject of this series, Unconventional Wisdom on Grief and Loss. I lost my mom, back in November from stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And to my side here is Steven Morrison. He's the creator of Spiritual Workout, author of An Extra Year, and I don't see it here in this pile of things. No, I don't. I'm sorry. An Extra Year, Grief and Loss in the New Age. That is a book that has helped me out tremendously, and there's a bunch of different things from that book that we bring up in this series. How are you, Steven? Sorry, I'm a little disheveled, disoriented.
All right, it's your party. I'm just along for the ride.
And I appreciate your flexibility.
And I'm quite well. Thank you for asking.
Good. I also would like to welcome my mom, her non-physical entity of my mother. You know, I'm back in New York. I've spent most of a series in LA, where I spent part of my time out there in LA, but I'm back in New York. This is where I was born and raised, and where my mom has resided in for many years. many years, over 50 years.
Since she was a kid, right? Teenager?
Yeah, she was like 12, 14 when she came from Peru. And so, you know, coming back to New York, well, we'll talk more about it because it's part of what I want to share this week. So yes, my mom, Duder, who is Steven's longtime love, who's also non-physical in the world of the non-physical.
The subject of the book.
Welcome, Duder, if you're around. And any and all non-physical entities that are present, thank you, welcome, bless you, bless us. Thank you. So yeah, unless you have anything to say, Steven, how about we just jump right into it?
Please.
All right. So I will have to admit that I am drawing a blank over what exactly we talked about last week in our last session.
Okay.
I knew that we were doing some, I think it was because I continued on with the tapping going into this week, and it's part of my update.
Okay.
But I just
we did a fair amount we did 2 levels of tapping last time.
Yes. And so I continued with that tapping. Mm-hmm. I think a big chunk of that tapping had to do with why the lure into the anxious thoughts, fearful thoughts, whenever I'm feeling, or whenever I'm about to feel or go into the more profound emotions. Mm-hmm. That was like a big part of it. And then the other part of it was sort of like a whole time is running out, like some kind of long-standing beliefs that were like all mixed up in there.
You gotta do it now.
I gotta do it now. Time is running out. Mm-hmm. Like you have
being responsible for tending to other people.
Peacekeeper type of thing. Yes.
Based on your desire for peace versus
versus anyone saying like you need to keep peace, this is your role.
Yeah, no, that's usually what it is. People just find that people being young kids find themselves in situations, and that just becomes a role. Nobody assigns it per se.
It's like peace equals safety,
Yeah.
security. Peace
Mhm.
equals safety, security. And that's what I need in order for, me to feel safe. So I'm going to do whatever it takes to keep the peace.
Yeah. Got
You
it.
know? Oh, Arham, where are you? In New York. Are you asking Steven? I am in New York, my friend.
That's our man.
Our man. Hi, our man.
You
Yes,
know
in
him.
New York, my
You know
friend.
him as our man.
Yes, yes. So that's where we left off yesterday. And last week.
One more piece from last week was
Thank
the
you.
whole idea of, and the question that I had and wanted to check, and we did, was the concept of us often unwittingly carrying energy that isn't ours,
Oh my God.
energy from others.
That one I went wild with. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. How could I'm telling you, I knew that all of this stuff was there, but I just didn't know specifically
I keep
what it was.
just enough notes to
No, I
remind
appreciate
us.
that. This is like the 1 week where I was like, wait, what did we talk about last weekend? Because I know that I tapped on it because there was a couple of other things that came to fruition that had me have a more empowered experience
Mhm.
of things. Okay. So let's go into it.
Let's do it.
So the next day after our session, I woke up with a bit of that nauseous feeling in the stomach, and I just went immediately into tapping on the what could be outside energy, what could be energy
Which
that's
is,
not mine.
from a practice standpoint, it's always just a good thing to start with. Maybe there's zero that's other people's. We found out last week when we were tapping with Delilah, there was a good chunk that was not hers that we could just take off the top before we even, and then can see a little more clearly what's actually ours. And sometimes we do that shower and, nothing much changes, which means, okay, whatever I'm feeling is really mine, and let's go. And oftentimes, like what happened last time, wow, big chunk of that wasn't even mine. Now I can just, all right, now I can see more clearly what's mine.
Yeah. So did that, and I loved it because I felt like last session, even though we've done it prior sessions, the tapping, and I'm not new to spiritual workout. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been tapping for a long, long time. However, for some reason, resistance, whatever it may be, I'll sometimes forget, right, to use tapping, EFT tapping on things that it could be used for. For example, the sleep procrastination, the very moment that I'm like, no, I don't want to get up and doing my bedtime duties, I can tap right there, right? Same thing with this, the nauseous feeling in the stomach, and then forgetting the part of the outside energy, clearing that, especially knowing, like last week, I think it was all about the rooftop that fell in the Dominican Republic and just kind of feeling that energy, and then everything that's happening politically in the collective.
And your friend was wanting some.
Yeah,
right?
they were having, some stuff coming up. My husband was in a mood, everyone was just kind of in a place, right?
Yeah.
And around me at least, or that's what I was seeing, attuned to, whatever. But whatever, that's what was happening in my reality. That's what I was experiencing. And so I guess conveniently forgot about using tapping for the outside energies, that clearing. So it was good to have this session last week to remind me of that, of just like, the fact that tapping changes shit, right? Like just the many ways that we can use it. So I went on a tapping spree, just tapping, tap, tapping, tap. Okay. So, tapping spree on everything that just, wasn't feeling good internally versus whether it was emotional, physical, spiritual, whatever, mental, like I just went on a tapping spree. So I'm just going to like say that as like a whole area part, right?
Well, that's music to my ears, just tapping spree, just because to your point, there's often so much that we can really move and change, and when we really use it. And you've been in spiritual workout as a co-host long enough. How many times did you hear people ask the question, am I going to be tapping like this for my whole life? Right? So oftentimes the more we have just the more we have going on, the more need there is for it, the more uses, the more opportunities and applications of tapping that exist. And as we, shed more and more and start to cultivate more and more of what we want, usually our quote unquote need for tapping or tapping at that level, diminishes, and it should. And yet, to your point as well, it doesn't, we can be very experienced in, living a little more consciously and all of that, and then just lose sight of, oh yeah, there's that tool that I kind of quasi forgot about. And so it all sounds average normal to me. And now I want to hear about your tapping spree.
So, well, it's not
if
going to
that's what you want to talk about.
It's not going to go so much into the tapping spree as it's going to talk about what has happened as a result of the tapping spree, right?
Great.
Because the tapping spree was pretty much like what we've covered, actually.
Sort of continuing. Yes. And that's almost always the case when I work with somebody in this format like this. Well, here's a direction. Wow, we've really moved from here to here. Now keep it going when you're off on your
And there was a lot of general short tapping too.
Okay, good.
Let it go, a lot of that, a lot of the other energies, and then definitely a good chunk of going in on certain things, right? So I did tapping spree, since our session was just like on a tapping spree. It's like, I'm feeling this way, sideways. Okay, tap. Then tap. Magnifying, tap. Just tapping. I could use a little more magnification tapping. That's still, but it's just because I was like all in the muck of it all, like with the other stuff. But
I think that's what I mean by appreciating the idea of a tapping spree. When we're in the muck, it's like, oh, here I can tap on this part of it, and then this part of it, and that part of it, and the other part of it, and oh, there's that part. You know what I mean? There's all So,
but just it's a good reminder though. Tapping for magnification, to magnify. Like when you really liking something, and okay. So I actually have great examples for that. So I did that. I also had a session with, one of my care team professionals, the Peruvian therapist. And he said something in that session that spoke to the whole feeling responsible for keeping the peace, But he said something so simple. But how sometimes, and I think because of the tapping spree, I was able to really receive it, even though it was something very simple and basic, which is like, you don't have to answer the call. You don't have to, you don't have to even maintain a relationship. You know what I mean? Like his saying that for some reason was able to land period, like was able to land, and
Mm-hmm.
like almost like felt like I gave myself inner permission to let go of the response over assuming responsibility for that.
Good.
Right. So that he came at the right time, I think, due to the tapping spree, clearing out all that you know where that could
Well,
land, and I can align with it,
mhm.
like I was like, you're right, I'm going to respond or maintain how and when and if I feel like it.
Yeah. Well, there's no way that if anyone said that to you when you were in the thick of all
No,
that you would have heard it.
no, because
Exactly.
I was in survival mode.
Right.
I was
And
in
that's where the
terror
tapping spree
mode.
comes in, just keep releasing what isn't needed, what
Yes,
isn't necessary,
it
what
was
isn't
it
working.
was able to land.
Yes, 100. Yeah.
So then the third part of this,
Yes.
and it's something that I texted you with,
Hmm.
was another person from my care team, professional care team, who is very much more on the indigenous, spiritual, chakra, very woo woo, what people would call woo woo practices. And so I mentioned this before, that I wanted to sort of blend some of the stuff that we're doing here. Like, I think the example last time was um, asking the divine, you know, um, why would the soul choose that? Why would my mother's soul choose this way of departing, this departure? You know, like, if I could even get an answer for that, and that I was thinking of blending the candling, which is what she was recommending I
Hmm.
do. Candling is taking different colored candles and having them burn completely,
Hmm.
and different colored candles for different certain things, right?
Hmm.
And so and the way it works is that whatever candle that you're using, have it burn completely, from what I
Hmm.
understand, and then you take pictures, or you have the person, the practitioner, take a look at how it melted to give you some feedback on what that may mean for you spiritually, right? On
Okay.
a spiritual level, metaphysical level. So I've been having issues with, like, my, very lower back pelvic area, which is like root chakra.
Hmm.
And root chakra is no surprise. What that represents is like security,
Right.
faith in the universe, faith in yourself, trust in the divine, right? I'm like,
Ting, 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 ting.
okay. Okay. So with that, she recommended I get a black candle for the root chakra, the
Mhm.
first chakra, a black candle, and just let it burn, completely. Take the photos, which I did, and took the photos, and she gave me the interpretation from what she saw
Mhm.
from those photos. And I'm not going to go into every single thing, but one thing that did stand out to me um, was the line where she said that it looks like, from the way that this part of the candle burned, that there is sadness in your mother's family line, the women in your mother's family line, that there's sadness over their relationships with men. And when I read that, it definitely rung true for me.
Mhm.
And I also realized that whatever heartache I was feeling over my mom's transition, departure from this plane, um, there's the heartache over that particular thing. But then there was also this heartache, I feel, that was another layer that had to do with that. Because it feels really true to me. Like when I read that line, like my heart, it was like a pang in my heart, you know? It was just
Mm-hmm.
like, oof, you know? And not only is that true for the women in my mother's line, but I'm seeing how I was internalizing that in my own life,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I felt like this heartache is like kind of like this blend of all of that. You know, my mom's departure, also the sadness that for it seems like generations, you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, this dynamic, you know, for generations. Sadness, heartache over that. And also, Stephen, I believe I'm sensing a bit of like sadness or something over letting that go. Like that's what it felt like to me,
Mm-hmm.
you know? It was like this three-part kind of heartache kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like a sadness over, okay, my mom's departure and her having to contend with that, knowing that she contended with that in her life. I know she did, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just this interpretation. Like I know she is. Like coming from the horse's mouth is what I'm saying. You know
Yeah.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And I've seen it, you know,
Yes. Yeah.
beared witness to it. So that heartache over that, you
Mm-hmm.
know, my mom departing this plane, still contending with that.
Right.
Um, the heartache, sadness, grief over the generations of that, you know, because my grandmother with my aunts, like I've seen it, I've heard it, I've seen it,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. And then the other part to it was that my letting it
Yeah.
my letting it go. You know,
Are you experiencing that emotion just as it comes and you think and talk about it? Do you have thoughts and ideas about what that is, or is it just coming?
what do you mean about letting it go?
Yeah.
Well, let me finish the story.
Okay.
So, part of the candling is not just to get the interpretation, but to also make a dent, if not eliminate those energies, right? And so I was scheduled to leave, you know, to return to New York on Saturday night. And you already know, Stephen, how I am about traveling.
Better
I'm
than you used to be.
I'm better than I used to be, but it's still it's not just like I wake up and boom, I'm traveling. You know, all right, let's do it. You know, no, it's still like a thing. You
Yeah.
know, it's an event. It's an event for me that I kind of always I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna you know try to prepare for it, prime myself a little bit. But it's been less and less of a
Yeah.
worldwide, you know, this like tremendous event in my life now when I travel. It's less and less. I've gotten a lot better.
Hmm.
My husband wanted to go to a concert on Friday, the night before. And normally I'm like that week that leading up to my traveling, I'm like, nothing's happening. So I'm not seeing anyone. I'm nothing. Like everything's gonna be as easy breezy so that I have space, the time. If I wanted to freak out, I can't. You know? Like it was just that's the way I've been, right? I'm like, I'm not scheduling anything big, let alone really anything that week leading up to it. Because I just want to have all the time and space, right?
Hmm.
And energy. But he really wanted to go to this concert on Friday night. And he was like, oh, I really want to go. And my immediate answer was like, no. Like immediately, like immediate was like, and it wasn't like an inspired no. It was just more of a,
Automatic.
a default no, you know what I mean? I was like, no, what are you thinking? Like, this is Friday, the day before I travel. Like, are you kidding?
Do you not know who I am?
Yeah, and he was just like, and I was just like, yeah, I was like, no, like, and then that night I thought about it and I was like, I have this preparing to go to the other coast down pack. Like I have it, I know the amount of time, I know that, and for some reason, I was like, I want to try something different. Let's go to this concert. It's not like it's going to go to like 4 a.m. It's going to be done probably by 11 latest, I'm like still up, you know what I'm saying? Like it's not, and I was just like, let's just go. And it wasn't even like, oh, I don't want to like piss off my husband, so I'm just going to go. Like I actually saw it and felt it as more of an opportunity for me to do something different. And so, yeah, we went to the concert. I wasn't fretting over like, oh my God, like we got to pack tomorrow, our flight's tomorrow, we got to get it all done. It was a nice concert, easy breezy, not too long. We got back by 11:30, something like that. And I didn't even begin to pack until 3 p.m. the next day. We were leaving at like, 10 from the house to get to the airport. So, that was probably one of the best flows I've had in packing in a really long time. I didn't even need to take a Xanax. I was just flowing, and just really did not feel this need to control. I didn't feel like this rush and that really bad, heavy rush that like can sometimes feel like it's taking me out. Like none of that, positive. I was just like, all right, wow, this is different. This is different, this is different. We arrived to New York, and I will admit that same thing with keeping the peace, making sure everyone's okay, like that no one's like fretting or that, because that's gonna threaten my existence, right? I usually will get kind of thrown off by sometimes like the weather in New York, if it's like pleasant or not, because I feel like I'm like, don't want to hear it from my husband, or you know what I mean? Like these things that I have absolutely no control over, but I would, for the keeping the peace kind of thing, would fret about, because I was just like, oh, he's not gonna like it. He's gonna be uncomfortable. He's gonna want to go back, and then what do I do if he wants to go back and I don't? Like, like did not affect me, phase me. I was just like, okay,
So what does that tell you?
So it was telling me a couple of things. I felt like the tapping spree with the candling, it's all the energy.
Yes.
Everything is energy. That's one of the concepts. Everything is energy. And I have held a lot of this energy that is no longer serving me well. I even had a little bit of these thoughts of how long is this going to last, but it didn't take me out.
Yeah, I know for a fact that thought has taken you out in the past.
Oh, yeah. Immediately.
A lot. Yeah.
And like immediately, like I'll feel it inside my system. Like,
right.
I'll go, when it would come up, because I was like, well, it's after my period, my hormones aren't all fucking up, like the little mind, the conscious mind has its ways, right? Of like, no, we're gonna stay, and we're gonna stay conditioned the way we've been conditioned. Um, so the thought would come up, but I'm just kind of like, right now I'm good, like I'm feeling good, I'm not fretting over, the weather, like, when my husband wants to go back, when I want to go, like, you know, um, I'm not like there, like I said, the thoughts may still come up, not as much,
Mm-hmm.
the ones that want to keep me where I've been. But they do not have the same pull. So
That's something.
yeah. It has to be, it just cannot be conceptual changes. Like, I mean, it just can't
No,
be.
well, you're getting evidence in your life that the work you've been doing is having an effect, that things that used to carry certain weights and energies don't right now and won't anymore as you just keep going, right? This is what transformation looks like. I used to freak out when I travel, and now I don't. I mean, that's basically it, to be able to truly say that and mean that. That is a transformation. That is work that is done, because we don't go back to it once we've essentially graduated from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the whole point of the work that we do, to
Yeah.
make those kinds of transformative changes. That's the
Mhm.
whole point of all of
Mhm.
it.
Mhm. So, that was something that's what I wanted to report back, was just how clear it was that everything is energy. And that while I know conceptually all these concepts, and I have a grasp on everything that we talk about here, like I know this
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and yet it's a different um thing altogether, embodying that,
Yes.
internalizing that, like it actually, your body getting a hold of it too.
Well, and don't we say that all the time? These concepts that we work with, everybody believes in them. The whole practice is going from belief in the head to
Yes.
embodiment and practice and living them. And so I really appreciate what you're saying.
Yeah, so I was definitely I'm definitely feeling a shift internally right now with that. Like it just feels like I perhaps am trusting more, because I feel like I'm letting go of a lot of this stuff right
Mm-hmm.
now. Like it feels that way. Like it just doesn't, I don't feel this like adrenaline rush whenever I think about some of the things that used to scare me, you know? Um, like I don't feel that way right now. So that's really, really important.
It's really
And
important. And I'd like to just take a moment to acknowledge something that has been a theme and is always a theme for me, which is using the circumstances of our lives as
Mhm.
vehicles for our personal growth and development. That's based on the idea that we're here for a reason. There are no accidents. And so in our practice, we take that as a given and as something that we are pursuing whereas I'm not sure it's necessarily the conventional way, and that's fine. But it really is rooted in that idea that we are here for a reason, and we're not experiencing what we're experiencing for nothing. And what you, Delilah, have been doing, as we've seen over these weeks, is, yes, of course, what started this whole thing was the passing of your mom. And you want to say something?
Yeah, I forgot
Go
to
ahead.
add something.
Go ahead.
No, but I want to finish what you're having to say.
Well, just to underscore and acknowledge this piece of it, which is, this conversation that we're having right now, so far this evening, not so much about Delilah's mom and her passing. It's in there. It's the reason for everything. But listen to the content of what we're talking about. Delilah's talking about really letting go of some long-held energies and beliefs about things, and to the point where she is experiencing, my word, more lightness in her system as a result of it. And it's fresh and new, and it's still, but when a person can say, yeah, that stuff used to really freak me out and it doesn't anymore, or it's not freaking me out right now, like we just said, that is strong evidence of the efficacy and the power of the work, which in this case is, as we're talking about it, a lot of letting go of old stuff, which is not what Delilah came in with 3 months ago. She didn't come and say, I want to let go of a whole bunch of beliefs that I have that I've been carrying around since I was a little kid. I mean, that's something we all do eventually at some point in this kind of work. But that's not what brought her in here. What brought her in here was an event in her life, the death of her mom, and her desire to fully process that experience. And the act of fully processing that experience, as we're seeing, extends to other issues that have, and challenges that preceded this event, right? And so your intention to, and what you were just saying, that at this particular moment, wow, could it be actually trusting a little more? That was part of the intention from the get-go. And not long ago, it was, well, yeah, I want to trust, but I definitely don't. I definitely don't. I don't trust at all. I don't trust at all. In fact, I think
a visceral response.
So so you're starting to see some really profound and definitive changes, as evidenced by what you're describing going on in your own body and your own experience. So I just wanted to acknowledge that.
So I almost forgot to add another example of this. And remember how I was saying that anytime I was prompted to do an exercise where I would have to use visualization, envisioning the person that I want to be, or who I'm becoming, or what does it feel like if you were to put all your trust into the universe? Don't you feel relieved? And I couldn't even really, see that picture, And I definitely told the story about how when my mother was sick and I went back to Joe Dispenza visualization meditations, because in the past they had worked so well for me, that I thought that, okay, let me use this visualization meditation, to help me out with this experience with my mom when she was sick. And so I think I described before that part of that meditation is slowing down the brain wave so that you can get to a theta level brain wave and you can receive more, receive more in that state. You don't have the busy mind, all fretting about and
stuff. That was another piece of your tapping spree.
Yes.
Clears up, raises the, and here's the new idea.
Right. And so I couldn't do when my mother was sick and I tried to do this visualization meditation. I was definitely able to slow down the brain waves, but when it got to the visualization part, and at that time I was wanting to visualize my mom healthy, happy again, like just seeing her in her health, in health.
Mm-hmm.
And that had me go into a panic attack, right? When I was doing them. And I was like, oh my God, like I felt I was getting choked and stuff. And then ever since then, obviously I didn't continue doing that, but all those, like anything that prompted me to doing any type of visualization or embodiment or, like trying to visualize something, would bring up the same kind of reaction where it brought up a lot of resistance, physical resistance, even, right? Not just emotional, mental, but like physical resistance where I felt like I was having a stroke kind of thing. You know what I mean? So I didn't do that. I was like, I think I told you, like even this 21-day challenge when I was having to visualize like the universe, just surrendering all my fears to the universe. And I was just like, like just like, choked up. Like I was like, I can't do this. And after this tapping spree, and I believe after the candling or while the candling was happening, I heard an interview with Joe Dispenza, and it was a good interview. It was a really good like I was just like, yeah, and I was like, you know what? Let me go back to one of his meditations, let me see how it lands. Cause I was really receiving it. Like after that whole experience, I could not listen to Joe Dispenza like interview.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
I couldn't. It reminded me a lot of that time with my mom, and it got me all stiffened up, right?
Yeah.
But I heard this interview was like a knockout interview. And I went back and I was like, let me just try not the hour and a half one, but let me try the like morning and evening ones, right? And so I did the morning one, which incorporates, a shortened thing of the longer meditation, which includes the slowing down and the visualization. And I was able to do it. I was able to visualize. And in this 21-day challenge, when they prompted us to do some visualization, I was able to do it.
And is this specifically the handing it over thing, or just more general?
Other ones that are similar were similar, similar to that. And I've been able to do it and feel the feeling.
Which have been?
Just being able to tune into it, tap into it. Like just feeling more like attuned, tapped into it more, as opposed to like, I am nothing, nothing, not happening.
Right.
I'm playing, like I'm bullshitting myself, know? No, it was actually like, yeah, I could feel that, like things were coming to me, like answers, like, oh, when little prompts, fill-ins, things were coming to me.
Yeah.
That felt true to me, aligned, with my intentions. So I bring that up because that's I think another bit of evidence there of, some transmutation.
Yes.
There's
so
that's why I brought that up.
So I trust
that was hard. That was really difficult.
Yeah. So let's just play a game for a second. I trust the divine, 0 to 10.
I would say right now it's like an 8.
And what was that a month or two ago?
It was like 4, 3, 4. Or I think we actually worded it like how much I do not trust, and it
Yeah.
was like an 8. And
Yeah.
now it's like, oh, yeah.
Well, so you're in a very different place today.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Today, I can say that um, there's just one part that I feel was affected, but it's still not, it still has a little bit of a charge
Mm-hmm.
to it. And that's that whole thing that we ended. I remember this ended last session with. And and maybe we don't need to go into it today, because maybe with more of this spree and
Yeah.
what I'm doing, it can maybe get to it a little bit more. But that whole thing about, remember in our last session when we ended off, and I said that one thing that came to mind that was kind of weird, but also very true, honest,
Mm-hmm.
was when I think about the relationship and the dynamic, the energy that I had with my mom, and without sounding trendy, psychologically trendy, okay, there was a bit of, and I'm saying this without jargon, okay, I'm just saying this is the best way of describing it, sort of this anxious attachment. Like there was
Mm-hmm.
always an underlying anxiety about losing my mother
Mm-hmm.
in the same way that I feel like about losing my husband, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And one thing that I it became clear to me, and that I also felt a little funny about thinking about it in this way. I don't like thinking about it in this way. But now that she has passed away, now that she's departed from this plane, I don't have that worry any longer. And I don't like that. I don't feel like that's good energy to carry with me in relationships, you know?
So wait, I thought you said you don't have that energy anymore.
Now, that particular part,
With your mom.
no, just with my loved ones, but
I see. Okay.
particularly it
Okay.
was I feel it the most was I felt it the most with my mother
Mm-hmm.
and with my husband.
And now you still feel it with him, or you're
It-
yeah,
it's still there. It's just not as charged
yeah,
anymore. And I know it's not as charged anymore because of how I've been
yes,
feeling and what
yes,
I've been doing, the choices I've been making in the past week.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm with you on that. I would
Understand?
say
Yeah, like
yes. I would say yes for sure. Thank you. I missed the piece that it was a generalized loved ones. Um, so yeah, I'm kind of with you in this moment to suggest to
yeah,
encourage that. Just keep
yeah,
going, doing what you're doing, and see what happens with that. And I
yeah.
think we know what will happen with
Yeah,
that.
I feel like that's going to
Yeah.
dismantle. But it was definitely something that I um became very clear on,
Mhm.
just like that feeling, like, when you just kind of step back and you're like, what are you feeling with respect to this situation, these people, like just that felt experience.
Mhm.
And I realized that there was this almost like there was more space now, that I don't have this worry about losing my mother. Like it's like I don't have that stress anymore. But it's like I don't even need to have that to begin with,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know? And I don't want to have that to begin with.
Yeah.
I want to
So
what I
what is the opposite of that? And is that in one of your intentions?
I don't think so. I don't think that is Um, I don't think so. I'm gonna have to look, but yeah, um, there has to be an intention for that. Like, what kind? Because yeah, I have to think about that intention.
I don't remember. Do you have a new way of being intention?
Yes, I do.
It might fit in there.
In there, because I was like, is it community
It
or
might, yeah, play
yeah,
it. You've got it. I think you probably have it somewhere.
yeah.
Or maybe it's an opportunity to, fine tune something. You'll see.
It's something having to do with like feeling secure in your relationships, and
Mm-hmm.
feeling secure in your relationships. I guess maybe that's what that along, with continuing on with the uh, transmutation of energy with
Yes.
tapestry and all of that,
Yes.
and having an intention there to cover that,
Well,
because
yeah,
it's
and
just an interesting one to set.
well, or it might already be incorporated. So now I would encourage you to pull out some of those intentions and just see. It might be time to refine some of them, and or just to see, look at what you've been doing over these last many weeks, and seeing what of any of it fits into any or all of the intentions you've already had. We've talked broadly here about the intention to
Yes,
uh, have two-way communication with your mom,
yes.
two-way communication with the divine. So there's certainly things there to magnify. That's what I'm getting at. So
Mhm.
one thing to do is fine tune the intention. Oh, this doesn't really fit exactly in here, but now it's going to because I want it to. There's always that opportunity, uh, or always value to review on that level, and and then part and parcel of this would also be to see, what have you been doing that you can really magnify over these last weeks.
Well, I'm definitely magnifying, and I have, even though I haven't magnified it with tapping, I have magnified it vocally.
Yeah. Well, good. And
Yeah,
so what we're
like I'm
talking
getting it
about
right
with
now.
yeah,
And yeah, yeah.
what we're talking about with magnifying, just for the
Yes.
record, is part of our intention setting practice. So once we've got an intention shiny and clear at the ready, and uh, we've kind of it's well articulated, then the rest of the process is just embodying it, getting
Yeah.
to where we think and talk and feel in its terms
Yes.
organically and regularly. And part and parcel of that embodiment project is picking up anything that happens in our lives that's even a little bit, if not a lot, but even if it's just a teeny bit aligned with what we're actually uh, cultivating. And
Mhm.
so that I'm just kind of reminding Delilah of that part of the practice.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so, um, moral of the story, tapping changes.
Yes, it does. And I just want to say this as spiritual workout facilitator, which is I don't go out in the world and put on my website and wherever I go that, I'm a certified EFT practitioner, because I'm not. What I am is the spiritual workout guy who utilizes
Yes.
tapping in a very, very targeted way in my own personal practice, and when I have the privilege of working with other people. Uh, and I just want to be clear about that, because oftentimes we talk a lot about tapping, and
And
I'm
then you're
here
the
for
tapping
it.
guy. You're not the tapping guy, but you utilize tapping. You're the spiritual
Yes,
workout guy.
yes,
You're the spiritual workout guy. No, I'm like I said, I'm magnifying what I've been feeling this past week. I really do like how I am. I really like this experience. I am really liking how I'm feeling internally. Um, I really am proud of myself for doing something different, like choosing to do something different. when I elected to go to that concert the day
Yes.
before,
Yes.
because I was just like, you got, come on, you've done this several times
Right.
before, like, you're not gonna run out of time.
Well, and the key inside of that, when you were telling that story, was that your response to the, I don't know if it was an invitation to the concert or the
Oh,
suggestion, whatever it was, but you said it. Your response was just automatic and visceral, and then you reconsidered. And
that
that's
night,
what, yeah,
that
and
night.
that's what this work is all about. It's like, wait, it's responding differently on purpose to the same stimulus. And that's how we measure our growth. And we can't know what we're doing, if we're growing, if we're making progress, if we don't experiment in that way.
Yeah, because I also knew that that night I wasn't gonna start packing.
Right.
I wasn't gonna. I've never done that. I knowing my schedule. Like, I know we're leaving at midnight.
The next, yeah.
We had the whole day. I'm an expert packer. I Tetris the shit. Like, I'm good. I know exactly. I have a list of things that I need to check off, and I know how much time it takes. Like, with a lot of padding, it takes me this amount of time.
Right.
Like, I know this stuff, you know? And so I was like, why are you saying no? Like, are you saying immediately no because you're just like, you know, holding on to the old way of being?
Yeah.
And I was like, what would I'm not going to start packing that night. What am I going to do? Watch Dateline? That's what I would have done. We have been watching Dateline. It's like, I could have just gone to the concert. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I watched Dateline later. Like, it's nuts. You know what I mean? I'm just really happy that I did that. And I'm also thinking about doing something different or new this week. Like, it's still carrying over to this week, you know, which is like going to my cousin's get together for her birthday, which is taking place in Jersey, and, you know, at her place of work, and, you know, between, like, at a later hour. And, you know, I think I would have probably responded with my old way of being, like, similarly to how I responded when my husband brought up the concert, and be like, like, you know, and it's just like, what? Like, why not? It's not like you're gonna take the train over there, you know what I mean? Like, you take a car out there, you're celebrating your cousin that you love, you know, that, like, and it's your fam's gonna be there, like, and I was like, I want to do this. And as a matter of fact, oh, now I know that this is definitely tapping really changes shit. You know why? Because I even had the thought about, like, who knows what you're going to experience in a good way.
Yeah, well, see?
I wasn't thinking of the worst things that could happen.
That's pretty big for you.
I actually had the idea, good. I actually had the thought of, like, who knows what you can experience in a good way.
Yes. Yes. Really good.
I think we can end on that note.
All right. So thank you, as always.
Thank you. I mean,
you're doing the work. I'm here 1 hour a week.
I know, but you are an exceptional facilitator. Honestly, Steven, like, had it not been, I think even just week 1, where you suggested that homework, the soul work of looking at this experience, you know, of losing my mom's departure, my mom's transition, through the eyes of her soul, you know, through the lens of her soul's perspective. Mm-hmm. Game changer. That, I mean, it just...
You're saying it's unconventional?
So unconventional. So unconventional. Just that was such a powerful exercise. And even when I started to do it, and I felt like I was, was hitting a wall and, like, hearing crickets, you know, I was like, I don't know I'm not getting anything. And then I was just like, okay, what would I like for it to be? you know?
Yeah.
And then that's when, and then now I go to that whenever I'm feeling, for example, that whole thing about, oh, my mom contending with the sadness over men, you know, but like while she was leaving this plane, you know, and what the emotions that brought up, but then going to what I wrote for, you know, in terms of her soul's perspective, and now that she's not dealing with that now. There's no sadness now, you know. So that's where I go to, and so I'm glad that, you know, we took these. I mean, just from the very first session, it was just like a great start. A great start, you know, a great start. Everything had, even like the crystallizing the intention for this experience weeks afterwards, which is not common practice for you.
No,
it's not normal practice for you.
I gave you a long leash.
But the time was perfect.
Yes.
Regardless, because I needed those parts in those first beginning sessions in order for me to realize, like, okay,
that's why I didn't push.
Yeah, and came up with a very concise, clear, shiny intention, you know.
Absolutely.
So yeah, everything is we're in good shape. And my Peruvian therapist says, you're going about this in a really healthy way. I was like, yeah, because I have a lot of others. I
have 17 other therapists.
I have great divine supports here.
Yes, you do.
I have great divine support here, you know. And I will say I'm really happy to be working with him too, because he respects the work that I'm doing.
Good.
With my other.
And I respect.
Yeah.
All the other practitioners you work with as well.
Yeah. No, I mean, everybody's like, everyone, you guys are family, you know. It's like my little haven there of professionals.
It's an honor and privilege to be part of it. So we'll gather again.
Yeah, I was thinking next week, let's see where this takes us with the anxious. Is there a better term?
Don't ask me. I've already let go of all those terms. I can't stand them.
But you get what I'm saying, though.
Yes. Call it whatever you want to call it. But really,
underlying anxiety.
You know what it feels like in your body.
Yes.
So call it what you will.
It's. I just feel like anxious attachment is like the best way of describing it, because it's just like this.
Sure.
You know, underlying anxiety in relationship with someone.
Yes. And that piece about, well, it's not so much with my mom now, but it's still with my husband. That's
well, it's not so much with my mom now because she's
well, that's
dead.
What I mean. It's not with her, but there's still some left with your husband. That's what I mean.
Yes.
So that's where you just go and look. That's where you play with it, right there.
Yeah.
And if I'm you,
transition brought it to light.
Yes, and also has made a marked difference in your system.
Yes.
And that's what I would start with, kind of magnifying that, and then look at the part that's left and go at it from that energy.
Yes.
In other words, okay, I've done a big chunk of this, and now I'm going to do another chunk.
That's how I'm feeling.
Yeah, good.
That's how I'm feeling. I'm not looking to rehash.
No, it's not. You don't have to rehash anything.
I don't need
familiar.
I don't need that shit. Yeah. It's already there. Okay.
Yeah,
it's already there. I don't need to like accentuate it. You know, but yeah, it's yes, definitely what you just said. Magnifying, seeing what's left, and working it out.
You got it. Emphasis on the out.
Yes. Thank you, Steven.
Right.
Thank you everyone
welcome.
who joined us here. This is our 13th week, 13th session of Unconventional Wisdom on Grief and Loss.
Of the year.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Please feel free to join us next week. Same time, same place. YouTube Live, Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Unconventional Wisdom on Grief and Loss. Me, Delilah De La Rosa, Steven Morrison, creator of Spiritual Workout, author of An Extra Year, Grief and Loss in the New Age. The book I have somewhere here, I don't know where it is. Yeah, I just kind of I still have a little bit more to unpack, but yeah, I'm unpacking still. That's why
All
it's a
right.
little but yes, hope to see everyone next week. And cheers, my friend. Thank you so much. Bye,
You're
everyone.
welcome.
See you next week.